Hello, thank you for checking out Mr. Ware's videos, and today we're looking at how to write and solve equations in context. Really what that means is in word problems. We're going to write and solve these equations from these word problems given, and they're going to be two-step equations, which I've went over how to solve in my previous video. So let's take a look at our first example here. So zoom in. All right, so I'm going to read the whole question and come back and break it down. Okay, so Evan has a points card for a movie theater. He receives 55 reward points just for signing up. He earns 4.5 points for each visit to the movie theater, and he needs 100 points for a free movie ticket. So write and solve an equation which can be used to determine X and the number of visits Evan must make in order to earn that free movie ticket. Okay, so he starts off with 55 reward points, right? And well, let me say it this way. He's got to add two things together to get a total. He's got to add two things together to get a total. So we need to figure out what those two things are and how they equal to the total. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to circle the two things I think he needs to add or underline them and circle the total thing. So he starts off with 55 reward points, right? He's going to be earning 45 points for each visit, and you need to add those points up to get 100 points. Okay, so that's how we're going to set our equation. We're going to have the two underlined added together to equal the circle. Okay, so we're going to start off with 55 reward points. All right, and we're going to add the 4.5 points for every visit. Okay, and together, when you add them together, they will equal 100. But we don't know how many visits, and every visit will have to go against or times the 4.5 points. So if it's one visit, it's 1 times 4.5. If it's two visits, it's 4.5. We don't know how many visits. So that's why we use the X, because it's unknown. And now we have our variable. And now we have our two-step equation we could solve. So I'm going to go ahead and solve it. I'm going to go ahead and isolate the variable, subtract 55 on both sides. Bring down to 4.5. Divide by 4.5 to isolate the variable. And now x is equal to 10. All right, so that's how you set up your equation. You find the two things that you're adding or sometimes subtracting, but find those two things that you are combining to get that total. All right, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve this one. Okay, this one is Colton buys cheese and apples at the store. He pays a total of $32.87. He pays a total of $4.39 for the cheese, and he buys 8 bags of apples that each cost the same amount. Write and solve the equation which can be used to determine X and how much each bag of apples costs. Remember to take the two things that you think you need to add and underline those and circle the total thing and then add them together, set up your equation, and then solve. Okay, so your answer should be $3.56. Okay, so now I'm gonna compare this to the previous question up here. Notice how they put the total down here. They don't necessarily put it in exact order. So you gotta really interpret what's the meaning here. He pays a total, going to the grocery store here, $32.87. And look how they try to trick you with the word total. They put total on both things, but this is just a total for the cheese. which will be included with the total for everything. So he bought some cheese and apples and 8 bags of apples here. And so I know I need to add the cost of the apples plus the cost of the cheese to get the total amount he spent. So the cost of apples is flat out, the cheese is $4.39, and apples is 8 of them, but we don't know what the cost of each bag is. So, but it's 8 bags. So we're going to multiply that times the unknown amount of the cost for the apples. So that's how you get 8 times X here. And together they add up to equal 3287. Then we solve from there. We subtract 439 on both sides, bring down to 2848, bring down to 8x, divide by 8 on both sides, and x is equal to $3.56. All right, so let's take a look at another example. All right, so Owen has a cell phone plan. Under his cell phone plan, Owen pays a flat cost of $67.50 per month and a $4 per gigabyte. He wants to keep his bill at $71.90 per month. Write and solve an equation which can be used to determine the number of gigabytes of data Owen can use while staying within his budget. So we know the total amount he wants to spend, right? And that's going to be $71.90. Okay. And the two amounts he's adding is the flat out fee that he has plus the $4 per gigabyte. Okay, so we're going to take the 67.50. We're going to add it with the $4 per gigabyte, and we're going to use X for gigabyte. And what we want is we want to stay under or add up to equal $71.90. So we know exactly how many gigabytes he can use. So once we get the equation set up, we just go ahead and solve. 67.50, 67.50, subtracting on both sides to isolate the 4x here. And I'm going to bring down my 4x. Okay, that's going to leave me with $4.04. And then divide by 4. And x is equal to 1.1. All right, so he can only use 1.1 gigabytes without going over his budget. Okay, go ahead and take a look at this last example and see if you can solve this one on your own. All right, so in this particular example, you should get $2.44. The total amount here was $9.45, and you have the 213 plus the 3 packs of juice bottles. Okay, so we want to know the cost per juice bottle. In this last example, it said to use G, but I just used X. But on this one, I made sure I used J on this because it said to use J. Okay, and once I set up my equation, my 213 plus the 3 packs of juice added together equals $9.45. So then I subtract the 213 on both sides, bring down my 3J, and then got $7.32, then divided by 3 on both sides, and ended up with $2.44. That's it. That is how to write and solve equations in context, aka a word problem. I want to thank you for checking out Mr. Ware's videos. Have a nice day.